you have reached a major milestone in your career, you should be proud, extremely proud of your major achievement. Chief Logan, that was amazing singing our national anthem, man. Now I know who to call when I am ready for my retirement. I want to say especially welcome to Colonel Lewis, Captain Calder, Captain Sweeney, commanding officers, executive officers, distinguished guests, my brothers and my sisters of the CPO mess, those former, those future, and of course our chief selects. I also want to especially welcome our family members and friends who are here supporting us for this great day. This is a great day for these soon-to-be Chief Petty Officers. I'm really privileged, honored, and humbled to be able to say a few words here. For the Chief Selects, you may not remember or much what I had to say this morning, but I know we are all excited to be here. Today's ceremony marked the 128th year celebration of Chief's Mess. But it's more than just pinning on anchors, changing a new uniform, and donning a new cover. Beyond these outward signs of transformation, you're internally transforming as well. But regardless of the specific job, the skill set, and location, these Chief Selects are bound by the unique fraternity for which they belong, that of the Chief Petty Officer. Traditionally, the pinning ceremony is held following a 6-week training and testing period known as Chief Initiation. However, these Chief Selects have not done it, starting from the shock and awe, to all the necessary training from the Whitehead burial unto the final night. Without the great involvement, training, and experience of the Chief Initiation Committee and the Chief's Mess overall. Chief Selects, I know that everyone is proud of you today. You succeeded in enduring punctilious training, yet necessary, these past few weeks. You've been tested physically and mentally. Each of you answered with determination and strength. You carry on and work as a team. As our creed states, the entire way of life has changed. With this promotion, there will be more expected of you, more responsibilities, more demanded of you. You will be technical expert, you will be mentor, a role model, and exemplar. Our chiefs are crucial to the fighting of the ship, crucial in executing normal battle rhythm of the training, maintaining standards, maintaining good order and discipline, effectively bridging the gap between the officers and enlisted. It is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. But it is because the need of this type of leader that in 1893, the rank of Chief Petty Officer was born. April 1st, 1893, the Navy officially recognized the CPO rating. It came up from being a cook. At the height of the Chief's Mess at the end of World War II, we have over 269 ratings associated with being a CPO. Today, we have less than 100 ratings. Boatswain's mate, gunner's mate, those are the two that survive the longest. But really, it doesn't matter whether you're yeoman, corpsman, mechanic, or operations. Today is a great day. Now, why is it we care so much about CPOs? The other services don't really recognize E7 rank the same way the Navy does. What is it about the Navy that values the E7, E8s, and E9s that makes us different from other services? It's the Chief Petty Officer mess that defines the command. That saying says, as the mess goes, so goes the command. What that means is that if the Chief Petty Officer got their stuff together, they talk to each other. They understand how things work in their command, how to motivate sailors, then that's going to be a good command. Conversely, if they're individualistic, if they only care about themselves, then and they don't take care of themselves, then there's a very, very good chance that command is not going to be as successful. That's just not it. I will tell you that the Chief's Mess in that command, in that group, that body that moves the basic understanding what it takes to be successful. You're in either an outfit that takes care or looks after the mission, or you're an outfit that looks after your sailors. A successful CPO in the mess understands that you have to be able to do both. It's got to be a balance. If you look at where we are in 2021, this is also the 48th anniversary of all volunteer force. In 1973, the United States eliminated the draft that changed the mandatory service to a volunteer force. So what's that mean? Each one of us in uniform, including all 26 chief selects, they volunteered to serve. It doesn't matter if they've been serving for 8 years or up to 19 years of service. While the military is far from perfect, the U.S. Armed Forces have never been professional, educated, and more capable. Every time we re-enlist, we take a note that says that we will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign, domestic, that we bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that we will obey the orders of the President of the United States and orders of the officers appointed over us according to regulations and Uniform Code of Military Justice. That's pretty special. I will tell you that every military organization of navies around the world are trying to become the U.S. Navy, but can't grasp why we value the chief petty officers. It's right here, the chief selects, chief petty officers. This is what we separate our Navy from other military that ever lived, that ever exists in the world. So why are we the greatest Navy that the world has ever seen? It's not the gross tonnage of our carriers. It's not our Tomahawk cruise missiles. It's not the power of undersea water. It isn't the jets going off the afterburner on the flight deck. It's truly our sailors. It's these sailors, these soon-to-be chief petty officers, that move the command forward, that takes care of the mission while taking care of our shipmates. And I've asked these chief selects if they intend to stay in the Navy. And I don't have to ask that because they understand that it isn't how long you serve. They understand it's while you do what you serve. That's what matters, and that's the power of all volunteer force. That's commitment. So what does it take to be a successful chief petty officer? We have the Chief's Creed, the Chief's Pledge. I would also refer you to our Navy core values: honor, courage, and commitment. I will tell you that the most basic element of understanding of what it takes to be a successful chief is to understand the element of what that is. So it's not just buzzwords. Turning into a meaningful actions for yourself, for your shipmates who work for you or beside you. Honor, being able to tell the truth, even the truth isn't very good. And how do we take bad news? You encourage your sailors to bring that bad news to you. Hopefully it's not too many bad news. Courage, again, a lot of times I think of courage as something that we exhibit in the battlefield. I will tell you that teaching your sailors and getting them to understand that at some point in their career, whether that would be E3, E4, E5, or E6, that they're going to be somewhere on the ship, airplane, mess decks, or office by themselves, doing a task, and they're going to have a choice at that moment, doing the right thing or wrong thing when nobody's looking, and whether or not the sailor makes the choice correctly will be how they've been taught by the chief's mess. Commitment. What a lot of people think is, well, if you stay in 20 years and retire, that's commitment. Again, I think it's something different. Commitment is really how you take care of your shipmates, how you take care of yourself, your shipmates, and how you take care of the other things, our stuff. So for each and every one of these chief selects, ladies and gentlemen, they have been working pretty hard for 6 weeks to take the best care of themselves so that they can possibly do while balancing their work and making time with their family. And they need to commit further from this point on, and they will continue to take care of themselves mentally, physically, ethically, and spiritually to be a total package, total sailors. They have to commit to taking care of their shipmates, teaching them how to take care of each other. And finally, the commitment of taking care of other things, our stuff. If we are truly the best Navy, we need to take care of our ships, planes, and equipment through its life cycle. But if we don't, we're not going to get more, we're going to get less and less capable. As a result of your training and your experience, you should not be fearful of what lies ahead of you. Instead, you should be excited about and honored by your increased responsibilities. And we are excited for each of you, for the Navy, and for the military. For I know that you are willingly accepting your challenges to train another generation of junior officers and another generation of future chiefs to maintain high standards, be on the ship, on the shore, to be technical experts. We continue to rely on to help complete the mission and to always be ready with an answer when we turn and ask the chief. So as we go through this ceremony today, it is truly an honor and to celebrate the achievements of these great 26 chief selects who get to join the ranks of the Chief's Mess. I want to say congratulations first and foremost to the Chief's Mess that's in the audience, the sponsors, the mentors, the initiation committee, who stayed up late during this day, stayed up late ensuring that these Chief Select receive all the training they need for success, for our success. Brothers and sisters, you did a terrific job in a tough environment that you scrutinized these Chief Selects more than ever. For you to do this, you are now here as the result of this transformation. Much mahalos for doing that, and job well done, brothers and sisters. Round of applause, please. To the friends and family who support, congratulations to you as well. Because these chiefs cannot get to where they today without your patience, unswerving devotion, love, and affection. Whether they have done 1 deployment or 16 deployment, it really doesn't matter because they can't do it without you. And yes, thank you for sending those care packages also. Lastly, to the Chief Selects and soon to be Chiefs, congratulations for what you have done. This is a day that you'll never forget. Whether you're going to be a MACPON, FDNF Master Chief, Ordnance Handling Officer of onboard USS Ronald Reagan, or CAG-MOB CAG-5, or retire in the Navy as a CPO to the very level that you are right now. You will remember this for the rest of your life. So congratulations. I wish you all the best in your career. Bravo Zulu. Finally, as we go through the rest of today, I ask to keep in mind those sailors, those Marines, other joint services, our coalition partners, they're out there keeping the watch so we can enjoy the very freedom we enjoy on this day for this great celebration. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this important ceremony. Thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you.
Master Chief Rosero, thank you for those meaningful and thoughtful words. I know I'm not the only one that got misty-eyed during that. I hope these prospective Chief Petty Officers benefit from your wisdom and apply it daily. And I think we can all take something away from your words today.
The United States Navy, as well known by all Navy personnel, is richly steeped in traditions and ceremonies, most of which are unique to the Navy and no other armed force of the United States. Unlike other branches of the military, the Navy has ceremonies for many events, including retirement from naval service, change of commands, ship commissionings, graduation from recruit training, as well as the pinning ceremony for new chiefs. Traditions in the Navy dictate the way we come aboard or leave a ship, or even greet one another. It describes how we relieve the watch, begin and end each day, and tradition guides much of the routine in between. Naval traditions are the best parts of our past that we preserve in ceremonies and customs, from the routine to the spectacular. They are preserved because they link us with the unique and memorable aspects of our seafaring and warfighting history. We define our traditions and safeguard them from perversion or abuse. We ensure that traditions are not practiced in ways which are inconsistent with our core values of honor, courage, and commitment. We must ensure that they are preserved. Honoring traditions ensure that our pride is not shallow, self-centered, or focused on individual accomplishment, but is instead anchored in the institutional strengths of the Navy. Such pride is invigorating and empowering. It is embedded in our core values.
Honoring our traditions is not about looking back at the past. It is about remembering. The tradition of the Chief Petty Officer transition, an established and crucial rite of passage, continues and changes are making the tradition prouder, stronger, and more valuable to our Navy. The goals of the Chief transition process includes congratulations, welcoming, inspiring, instilling trust, and motivating the Chief selectee while simultaneously teaching leadership, establishing a spirit of corps, promoting unity, building teamwork, and occasionally having some fun in the process. Selectees join group physical fitness routines, read about our naval heritage, and participate in core value discussions, and various leadership and teamwork training efforts. The training ends with a pinning ceremony in November this year.
As the transition is completed, we can ensure a deeper understanding of our traditions, our heritage, and our values, not only in the newest chiefs, but in the entire chief mess. These are noble and challenging goals. Today, you will witness a ceremony where those recently selected to the rank of Chief Petty Officer will be pinned with the insignia of their new rank. This ceremony culminates the weeks of training, assignments, and hard work of those standing before you now.
No other armed force has a rank equivalent to that of the Chief in the United States Navy. While it is true that all armed forces have two classes or rank, enlisted and commissioned, the United States Navy has the distinction of having an additional class of service, the Bureau-appointed Chief Petty Officer. This is what makes the title of Chief even more distinctive. Although the pay grades E7 through E9 are equivalent to those of other services, the Navy is unique in that it confers much more authority and responsibility on the Chief while demanding more performance and results than any of the other services. Even the uniform is changed. The Chief is required to be a fountain of wisdom, the ambassador of goodwill, and the authority on personnel relations, as well as the technical expert. Even those standing before you now are not fully aware and have not yet begun to grasp the significance of the task, the responsibilities, and the challenges that will lay before them in the future. And to them, I will now give you a synopsis of what the Chief's job will entail.
They are charged with motivating sailors, yet no one can motivate anyone else. I can point a gun at a sailor and get him to do something, but that is not motivation. That's fear. It's the Chief's job to create an atmosphere where motivation is encouraged and rewarded. Motivation comes from within. It is the Chief's job to figure out how to get it out. It is the Chief's job to train and develop subordinates, to develop them into leaders. The Chief is key to the success of the mission, and it is the Chief who must solve problems. But that is the easy part of being a Chief, because that has been embedded into them.
The single most important and difficult task they will undertake is training and guiding the junior officers. Junior officers are those whose training has been extensive on the technicalities of war, but slim on the realities of leadership. This is a duty from which a Chief cannot shirk, as the consequences for doing so are monumental. They will be constantly frustrated in this role. They will be forced to battle those who will be responsible for writing their fitness reports, someone half their age, and someone who is convinced that they are right and the Chief is wrong. But if they are potentially good naval officers, they will seek the Chief's counsel, listen to them, and the Chief must have the answers. It has often been said that the officers run the Navy, but it is the Chiefs that make the Navy run. A good Chief and a good leader will ensure his sailors have the tools needed to perform the tasks that are required, will accept responsibility when his job is not performed well. yet remain silent when a good job is being rewarded. These traits alone will establish trust in those they will lead.
To the chief selectees, I say, do not be afraid to stand up for what is right or to challenge something that you know is wrong. Show courage. Pick your battles wisely. You will never have all the answers, but you will never fix the problems if you do not try. Rely on your fellow chiefs to help you. Commit yourself now to making a difference in the life of a sailor, whether it is a junior enlisted or a junior officer. A great chief does not earn his anchors once, but earns them every day. It is no longer about you, but about those you lead and guide. Finally, never forget those people who worked for you to get you entry into the most exclusive fraternity on earth, the fraternity of the Navy Chief Petty Officers. It is their sweat that got you here, and you owe them for it. The chiefs made you, and they can break you if you refuse to function as a team. Commit yourself to being a leader. If you are in charge, take charge. Remember who you are about to become. Wear the anchors with pride and behave in a way that will always protect them from any stain or dishonor. You are about to join the ranks of the Chief Petty Officer and those who have gone before you.
Bosun, post the side boys. The selectees will now be called forward for the pinning of the Chief's anchors and donning of the Chief's combination cover. As the selectees are called forward, those of you who are pinning the anchors and placing the cover should also come forward to join them on the stage. We ask that you please hold your applause until all selectees have been pinned, regrouped, and formally introduced collectively as chiefs. Chief selectees, Alvarez, Beverly, Burton, and Carbonell, front and center. Chief Select Alvarez will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Jira and his sister Jenny. He will have his cover presented by Chief Beckerman. Chief Select Beverly will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Iriano and Chief Rosales. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief Lee. Chief Select Burton will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Cerote and Senior Chief Juarez. He will have his cover presented by Chief Goulon. Chief Select Carbonell will have his anchors pinned on by Command Master Chief Horton and his wife Michelle. He will have his cover presented by Chief Uz Batala. Chief Carbonell, arriving.
Chief selectees, Carretero, Chong Medina, Capayak, and Darnell, front and center. Chief Select Karatero will have his anchors pinned on by his wife, Mami, and his sons, Kenshin and Ryusei, along with Chief Oliva and Senior Chief Tanhuakio. He will have his cover presented by Chief Trammell. Chief Select Chong Medina will have his anchors pinned on by his wife, Satomi, and children, Miki and Yuki. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief McJames. Chief Kapiak will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Michelle and his daughter Stacey. He will have his cover presented by Chief Keese. Chief Select Darnell will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Zizinski and Chief Fritz. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief McJames. First ring, post. Chief Karatero arriving. Chief Chong Medina arriving. Chief Kapiak arriving. Chief Darnell arriving.
Chief Selectees Figueroa, Hanson, Heathcote, and Hurett, front and center. Chief Select Figueroa will have his anchors pinned on by Senior Chief Alonzo and Chief Steele, who will have his cover presented by Chief Steele. Chief Select Hanson will have her anchors pinned on by her son Michael. She will have her cover presented by Chief Tankersley. Chief Select Heathcote will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Taylor and Lieutenant DeWolf, who will have his cover presented by Chief Alonso. Chief Chief Select Hurix will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Faye and his daughter Amina. He will have his cover presented by Chief Carrillo. First ring, post. Chief, Figueroa, arriving. Chief, Hanson, arriving. Chief, Heathcote, arriving. Chief, Hurix, arriving.
Chief Selectees, Joseph, Kazel, Lee, and Lopez, front and center. Chief Select Joseph will have his anchors pinned on by Senior Chief Meyer and Master Chief James. He will have his cover presented by Chief Bolliard. Chief Select Kazel will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Taylor and Chief Nelson. He will have his cover presented by Chief Alvarez. Chief Select Lee will have his anchors pinned on by his wife, Raynalyn, and children Divine, Bambao, and Devin. He will have his covers presented by Senior Chief Badua. Chief Select Lopez will have his anchors pinned on by his wife, Narapan. He will have his cover presented by Chief Mansanao. First rank, post. Chief Joseph, arriving. Chief Kazel, arriving. Chief Lee, arriving. Chief Lopez, arriving.
Chief selectees, Odal, Parr, Phillips, and Ponce, front and center. Chief Select Odal will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Hernandez and Senior Chief Carlson, who will have his cover presented by Senior Chief Wilkerson. Chief Select Parr will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Nicholas and Chief Hughes Batala. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief Castro. Chief Select Phillips will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Monica and his son Jaden. He will have his cover presented by Chief Forwood. Chief Select Ponce will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Steele and his wife Andrea, his daughters Abigail and Marissa. He will have his cover presented by Chief McDonald. First rank, post. Chief Odal, arriving. Chief Parr, arriving. Chief Phillips, arriving. Chief Ponce, arriving.
Chief selectees, Quintano, Ramirez, and Ryhall, front and center. Chief Select Quintano will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Patricia, son Jeremiah, and Chief Iriano. He will have his cover presented by Chief Brown. Chief Select Ramirez will have his anchors presented by his wife Coral, daughter Addie, and son Alexander. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief Goodspeed. Chief Select Ryhall will have his anchors pinned on by Senior Chief Sanderson and his wife Casey. He will have his cover presented by Chief Hendra. First ring, post. Chief Quintano, arriving. Chief Ramirez, arriving. Chief Ryhall, arriving.
Chief selectees, Tolbert, Torres, and Walker, front and center. Chief Select Tolbert will have his anchors pinned on by Chief Cunningham and Senior Chief Johnson. He will have his cover presented by Master Chief James. Chief Select Torres will have his anchors presented by his wife Carolina and Senior Chief Trial. He will have his cover presented by Senior Chief McKernan. Chief Select Walker will have his anchors pinned on by his wife Yvette, son Travis, and daughter Tanea. He will have his cover presented by Chief Harrison. First ring, post. Chief Tolbert, arriving. Chief Torres, arriving. Chief Walker, arriving. Poston, post the side post. Fiscal year 2022 Chief Petty Officers, front and center.
Chief Smith will now read the mission, vision, and guiding principles of the Chief Petty Officer.
The Chief Petty Officer, mission, vision, and guiding principles. Mission, provide leadership to the enlisted force and advice to Navy leadership to create combat-ready naval forces. Vision, a senior enlisted force that serves first and foremost as deck plate leaders, committed to developing sailors and enforcing standards, remains responsive, aligned, and well-connected to both leadership and sailors, and conducts itself in a consistently professional, ethical, and traditional manner. Guiding principles. Deck plate leadership. Chiefs are visible leaders who set the tone. We will know the mission, know our sailors, and develop them beyond their expectations as a team and as individuals. Institutional and technical expertise. Chiefs are the experts in their field. We will use experience and technical knowledge to produce a well-trained, enlisted, and officer team. Professionalism. Chiefs will actively teach, uphold, and enforce standards. We will measure ourselves by the success of our sailors. We will remain invested in the Navy through self-motivated military and academic education and training, and will provide proactive solutions that are well-founded, thoroughly considered, and linked to mission accomplishment. Character. Chiefs abide by an uncompromising code of integrity, take full responsibility for their actions, and keep their word. This will set a positive tone for the command, unify the mess, and create esprit de corps. Loyalty. Chiefs remember that loyalty must be demonstrated to seniors, peers, and subordinates alike, and that it must never be blind. Few things are more important than people who have the moral courage to question the appropriate direction in which an organization is headed, and then the strength to support whatever final decisions are made. Active communication. Chiefs encourage open and frank dialogue, listen to sailors, and energize the communication flow up and down the chain of command. This will increase unit efficiency, mission readiness, and mutual respect. Sense of heritage. Defines our past and guides our future. Chiefs will use heritage to connect sailors to their past, teach values, and enhance pride and service to our country.
Thank you, Chief Smith. Chief Tankersley will now read the meaning of the fouled anchor.
The Chief's fouled anchor. The fouled anchor is the emblem of the rank of the Chief anchor has long been the symbol of the Chief Petty Officer. In terms of the chief, the fouled anchor symbolizes the trials and tribulations that every Chief Petty Officer must endure on a daily basis. Attached to the anchor is a length of chain and the letters USN. To the novice, the anchor, chain, and letters only identify a Chief Petty Officer of the United States Navy. But to a chief, these have a more noble and glorious meaning. The U stands for unity, which reminds us of cooperation, maintaining harmony, and continuing our purpose in action. The S stands for service, which reminds us of service to our God, our fellow man, and our Navy. The N stands for navigation, which reminds us to keep ourselves on a true course so that we may walk upright before God and man in our transactions with all mankind, but especially with our fellow chiefs. The chain is symbolic of the flexibility and reminds us of the chain of life that we forge day by day, link by link, and may it be forged with honor, morality, and virtue. The anchor is emblematic of hope and glory, of the fulfillment of God's promise to our souls. The gold, our precious anchor, by which we must keep steadfast in faith and courage to abide in our proper stations amidst the storms of temptation, affliction, and persecution.
Thank you, Chief Tankersley. Senior Chief Diaz and Senior Chief Tanwakio will now read the Chief's Pledge.
I am a Chief Petty Officer in the United States Navy.
I serve my country and her people with pride and honor.
I seek no special favors.
I make things happen and do the best I can do.
I'm charged with leadership roles like no other in the world.
I develop junior officers and mold my sailors.
I acknowledge full responsibility for the actions of my sailors, because the sailors are the seeds of future Chief Petty Officers. I live by the Navy's core values of honor, courage, and commitment.
I set the example.
I establish the standards of performance.
My sailors are students, and I am their teacher.
I guide and influence the lives of deep young men and women.
In the final analysis, I will determine quality sailors.
They look up to me because I treat them with dignity and respect.
Because to be a leader, I am everything.
After all, I'm the Chief Petty Officer, United States Navy.
Thank you, Senior Chief Diaz, Senior Chief Tanwakio, and the Chief's Mess.
Everyone serving in the Navy today is a sailor, from the newest recruit to the most senior admiral. Everyone is your shipmate. However, only a few are selected to the rank of Chief Petty Officer. As you have heard, the Chief's prestige, responsibility, and importance is unlike any found in the other armed forces. The process of initiating a group of Chief Petty Officer selectees into the Chief's Mess not only presents a series of challenges for the selectees, but also affords the genuine Chief Petty Officers an opportunity to reflect back on their initiation and the lessons they've learned across the years. It strengthens the brotherhood and sisterhood within the Chief's Mess and reinforces what it means to be a Chief Petty Officer. Our commitment can best be stated in the reading of the Chief's Creed. Senior Chief Santa Cruz and Senior Chief Magno will now read the Chief Petty Officer's Creed. Once a chief, always a chief. All chiefs, past and present, please rise.